I feel pleasured and excited to welcome Mr. Gopal Mehrotra. He is a seasoned strategic HR leader with a wealth of experiences spanning over 3 decades. He excels in partnering with board and CEOs to steer large-scale global transformation, particularly for business at critical junctures. His extensive career encompasses 6 diverse industry sectors, including FMCG, manufacturing, pharma, automobiles, IT, and chemicals. And his hand-on experience in 21 countries has significantly contributed to the growth of business through accelerated global expansion, cultural transformation, and mergers and acquisitions. Currently, he leads HR at HMEL, where he is instrumental in driving the transformation of a $12 billion oil and chemical enterprise into a $25 billion integrated energy corporations. His passion for building high-performing teams and nurturing leaders is evident in his role, and he is also an ICF-certified MCC coach and mentor to CZOs. Beyond his professional achievements, he is a history enthusiast with a keen interest in the evolution of world civilizations and cultures. As an explorer, he enjoys adventure and nature, often found trekking in the Himalayas or on off-roading trails. His blend of strategic insight, cultural curiosity, and adventurous spirit truly defines his exceptional profile. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Gopal Mehrotra.
Most welcome, Mehrotra ji. It is a pleasure having you here. The whole stage is yours for next 13 minutes. So much looking forward to listen from you about India, spirituality and social entrepreneurship, empowering youth to create positive change.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tomar. Just a process check. Is my audio and video fine?
Yes, you are visible and audible both.
Thanks for that. So namaste to everyone and welcome to the first session. I am humbled by this privilege of presenting my thoughts to this august audience. I shall be talking about how do we empower youth to drive positive change through social entrepreneurship. For starters, I would like to present a short 2-minute video. This is about a social entrepreneur who is currently making difference in providing easier access to disabled people. And he's doing it for thousands of them. And he has done this after he got hit by paraplegia about 10 years ago. And he was encouraged and empowered by his own condition to make this difference in the lives of so many people through his startup, which he calls Ramp My City. Soumya, may I request you to play the video, please?
My mantra in life is pretty simple. Don't be a part of the problem. Be a part of the solution. Be the solution. My name is Prateek Khandelwal. I am the founder and managing director of Ramp My City. I had pretty much everything that a guy in his 20s would dream of. On May 30th, 2014, a bad fall in an under construction building, and I was introduced to my new life. But a lot of people advised me that death would be an easier option than to go through any of this. But I decided I will fight it and I will change it. When I started going out more, I realized that I could not go out anywhere because I'm a wheelchair user. And everything in our country is hugely inaccessible for persons with disabilities. In 2018, to provide physical accessibility solutions, I started Ramp My City. I opened my own workshop and started manufacturing of ramps by myself. After that, in around 2 years, Ram My City did around 75 plus restaurants in Bangalore. In fact, one of our signature projects recently was making Bangalore's Church Street one of the most wheelchair-friendly streets of India. Ram My City is now providing end-to-end accessibility solution that a PWD needs. बॉडी में डिसेबिलिटी होना एक अलग बात है, लेकिन अगर एक इंसान को इंसान की तरह नहीं ट्रीट करेगा तो उससे बड़ी डिसेबिलिटी क्या ही होगी. May your response be reflected in your actions.
Thanks, Soumya. May I have the presentation up, please? Next slide, please. I'm sure the audience is absorbing this. Next slide, please. And this is the young gentleman we just met. Next slide, please. And this is a glimpse that we got in his life of 10 years in the last 2 minutes. Next slide, please. So I've just put this there as a summary of what we just saw. And, in case you would like to know more about him, this is why this is an encapsulation which you can go through. Now moving on with our subject. Next slide, please. So what we saw and what we heard, what are our reflections? That is what I would like to offer to our audience. The first is, Pratik felt disheartened. And then, imagine a young man in his 20s and the way he says it. He had everything that life could offer him at that time. And then he had to take this cruel, solitary journey, which required a lot of grit, resilience, commitment, and of course, personal drive. Next slide, please. And in his journey, apart from his personal powers, his personal encouragement, his coming forward, what else might have helped him? Role models, certain grants, his peer networks, and incubators and accelerators which exist in the startup space. So this is to summarize and encapsulate what we might learn from Pratik. Now moving on, next slide. If this story grabbed you, if it resonated with you, my question to the audience, and unfortunately I'm not able to see you, my question to the audience at this juncture of this presentation is, if you could go back in the mind, in the eye of your mind, to your early years, to your neighborhood, to your community, what is that one change that you would have liked to effect at that time, and why? Hope my question is clear and the slide is visible. Soumya and Vikranji, I will need help in case any member of the audience would like to come forward and present their view. So Vikranji, you are in charge of the audience and the traffic. So do we have anybody who would like to come forward?
We got a text bringing education to people.
Okay. Would anyone else like to share live on video?
I am afraid that will be technically possible, Though people are
Okay.
texting on WhatsApp. Yes.
Okay. Okay. No problem. So that's part of our WhatsApp
Yes.
you know, way of communication now. So thank you very much. Let's move on to the next slide, Soumya. So given the the piece of landscape that we're talking about today, uh, I will offer a few humble suggestions, and again they would be open to any questions or any other proposals which people might like to offer. I have tried to encapsulate my thinking into three proposals, and prastav is as we call them in Hindi. So the first one, next slide please, is about early inclusion. And the second one is about coaching ourselves, the elders in the community who had more experience in the ways of the world. And the third one is about how to exhort and encourage the youth through reward and recognition. So these are my suggestions I'm putting forward to this August audience in terms of what can we do to encourage social entrepreneurship amongst the youth so that they can drive positive change in our communities, in our countries. And as Dr. Tomar said, in the United Nations peacekeeping mission for the entire humanity. Next slide, please. Going to the first suggestion. So the first one, what do I mean by early inclusion? See, as a student in school in my early years, I don't know if others had that. I actually had a subject called moral science. And that taught me how to be a better citizen. It taught me how to work in the social sector and for the upliftment of the others. This was early seeding in my mind that I am here for others. So, can we have a subject called social entrepreneurship in the kindergarten to 12th itself so that it grows early and takes seed and root as early as possible in the minds of our youth? We could even have social entrepreneurship labs. I remember science labs where we did projects. We could have social entrepreneurship labs where we do projects for the community. And especially the people who inculcate the minds of the youth, who influence the minds of the youth at an early stage. The teachers, educators, administrators in the education system. Could we also train them in having a mind shift towards having a subject called social entrepreneurship? Going to the next suggestion on the next slide, please. The second one is about skilling ourselves. It's easier to talk about what other people should do, especially the youth, and how they should listen to the elders, the ones with more experience. But are we skilled enough? Do we have the right training? Do we have the right dialogue? Do we present ourselves in the right medium so that we can accept for our children, for our youth, that social entrepreneurship is a viable and a desirable career pathway? Can we imbibe coaching skills? That is, we have the skills to coach the youth in developing a positive and a growth mindset and contributing to society. I'll give, often we confuse active versus activism. I'll give you an example. Just last week, my colleague, a mother, and her 18-year-old daughter, who has joined a very prestigious university in the US, we had a conversation because this young lady wanted to write about and do something about wars, terrorism, gay rights. And the mother's natural instinct was, no, 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 this is activism. This may hurt you. So the natural instincts at that young, impressionable age were actually getting curbed, and we had a conversation about that. So I just wanted to offer that example to bring what I mean by the youth being active and the elders sometimes confusing it with activism and actually acting contrary to what is required for influencing youth in the direction of social entrepreneurship. Next slide, please, and the last suggestion. See, nothing works if success is not celebrated. So while we are exhorting youth to come forward, while we are skilling ourselves to have the right dialogue with them, we also need to celebrate people like Pratik. We need to celebrate them everywhere. Platforms, forums, state, country, regional recognitions. We have so many skilling conferences. What about social entrepreneur? We have so many startup conferences. What about having social entrepreneurs being put on a regional and a national platform to recognize what they're doing so that they become role models for everybody else in their peer network? Next slide, please. So actually, this slide would not be required in the sense that if the suggestions that I talked about, if they make sense and if they can be adopted, then we will have so many of these youth as social entrepreneurs that the next time this subject gets talked about, we will actually not have the question on the table, why do we have so less of them? Next slide, please. So thank you very much. United Consciousness, its message of peace, in that youth as social entrepreneurs is a few threads in the entire tapestry that UC and Project Self are weaving together. Thanks again for letting me present my thoughts. And in the next slide, please. In the next slide, being very mindful of the august and diverse audience that we have, I've tried to say thank you in as many languages as possible. Have a very nice day and a good conference for the rest of the day.
Thank you very much, Mehrotra ji. I'm sure that this talk that you made on social entrepreneurship and in particular reference to youth will reach to many people from different continents. People are watching us. People will be watching this talk also. It will certainly encourage. And as you rightly mentioned that the must things that we can identify from the video of Pratik is grit, his resilience, commitment, and a personal drive, as you mentioned. And probably the help that can be provided is kind of having role models, case studies, and peer groups, grants, and incubations. And the prastavs that you made for youth are very much valuable. Early inclusion, because it's what we learn in moral sciences. This is what is our society all about, as you rightly mentioned, and coaching ourselves, skilling, awareness, training. And I like the way you put active versus activism. That's quite, every teen must be able to relate with it across the planet. And the ripple of recognition, celebrating their success and institutionalizing it are certainly valuable inputs. I'm glad that we started this conference with your talk. Thank you very much, Gopalji. We're really honored to have you here.
On behalf of United Consciousness, I thank Mr. Gopalji Mehrotra for coming onto the platform of United Consciousness. Thank you so much.